Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sex is Medicine. I am your host, Devi Ward Erickson, here with you once again for another delicious conversation where we explore the intersection of sexuality, spirituality, pleasure, and personal growth. I want to give a special shout out to all of my sisters from the Sisters Leading Sisters retreat that I just left last weekend. You can check out sistersleadingsisters.com for info about the next retreat, but I just wanted to give a shout out to all my sisters there who may be listening and have been listening and following me through all these years on Sex is Medicine. It was an incredible pleasure and an honor to meet you and play with you in person. And I look forward to next year. Next time, yes. And then today, I just wanted to let you all know that this is our last Sex is Medicine episode for 2021. This is it, my friends. We're taking the winter off. We're going to rest and integrate and heal and cultivate new content and cultivate all kinds of new amazing stuff to offer through the Institute of Authentic Tantra Education. So you want to make sure that you are signed up for our newsletter and signed up for our social media so that you will not miss any of the amazing content that is going to be coming at you in 2022. We have some incredible things on the horizon, some wonderful programs for all of you, updating our certification curriculum to even higher standards. So there's all kinds of wonderful things coming down the pipeline from the Institute. And I want to make sure that you stay connected and you don't miss a single yummy drop. So make sure you sign up for all of our free offerings at authentictantra.com. We have so many free stuff for you. And then make sure you stay connected to us on social media at Authentic Tantra. Woohoo! And then, of course, all of my wonderful, beautiful, brilliant, incredible guest speakers that we have online with us this evening, our crew of sexologists to answer your questions. It's been so fun answering your questions this past year, and I look forward to much, much more. In my upper right-hand corner, of course, we have Lucia Vasquez. To my upper left, we have the lovely Rosie Bitts. To my lower left, we have the exquisite Karen Craig. And to my lower right, we have the stunning and regal Sequita Whitfield, who also is at my house. You may recognize her view from previous episodes. Yay, awesome. So we have some awesome questions to answer for you, our wonderful audience, this afternoon that you have been sending to us individually and collectively. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So our first question is, dun, 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 drum roll, please. What do you do when someone is having issues keeping their erection and they are very new to you? So I think that many of us, yoni owners and lingam owners listening, can probably relate to having issues keeping their erection, particularly with new partners. And this question is specifically from a sex worker asking about working with clients. But I thought it would be wonderful to answer it both ways, both from the sex worker perspective, because we love and support our brothers and sisters and siblings who are sex workers doing important work in the world. But then also for your average everyday person who may be struggling with maintaining an erection in new circumstances. What is the cause of that and why is that occurring? And what can we do in the moment? So who wants to be the first to take a crack at this? What do we do when we're struggling with an erection in a new situation? How can we support our partners with fluctuations in erection? What are your guys' thoughts?
I would probably approach it from potentially an anxiety standpoint. So, you know, like there's no reason that you have to dive in at that moment. Like you can pull back and, you know, do some breathing together, do some ocean breath together, and, you know, maybe some conversation around like, what are they feeling? What are they experiencing? So, you know, maybe it is performance anxiety, you know, and having some conversation around that. So you're really creating a safe space for them. Because as women, as yoni owners, we tend to think of men as, you know, always just like ready to go. And, you know, and we're like, so what's your problem? You know, and so that's not really safe space for a man because they aren't always, you know, just ready to go. And they do have things that they've brought from other experiences and all of that and wondering how they're going to perform and if they've, you know, a part of porn culture, which so many people are, because that's what the culture is, you know, that sense of like, am I going to be able to make her squirt across the room? Because of course that's what, you know, porn tells us is supposed to happen. So, you know, I think I would kind of start from that perspective.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So checking in, approaching it as an opportunity to check in and find out what might be going on emotionally, psychologically for our partner. Mm-hmm. Who else? I'd like to add to that.
I would say checking in and also redirecting. Like as Karen was saying, you don't have to focus. You can let your partner know, hey, this is totally okay. No big deal. It's okay if your erection comes back. It's okay if it doesn't come back. There's many different ways that we can pleasure each other. And I am open to pleasuring you with a soft cock, if that's what's going to happen. And as long as you're having pleasure, let's keep going. And I'm having pleasure. And I would say from a sex worker perspective, like actually this question came up when I was doing a workshop with a number of sex workers, and they had great ideas. Like, you know, they're working in the field, they're working with these lingams all the time and doing deep healing. And some of them were saying, you know, sometimes all it takes is just like, let's take a breath. Let's get a glass of water. Let's just sit and cuddle for a minute. And like connecting from a heart to heart basis so that person can get back in their body and allow their arousal to build. But I would say in partnership, or if somebody, maybe you're having casual sex, just taking that time to be like, hey, we can have so much fun with or without your erection.
And I love that, Rosie. I love this reframing or busting the complete paradigm that a hard cock is required for sexual pleasure between, you know, lingam owners and yoni owners, or lingam owners and lingam owners. Like that a hard cock, it is not required. They're wonderful and we love them, but pleasuring soft cocks, like that's like a whole new thing. And I think that there's like so much shame, right? As you spoke about with our cultural conditioning and porn culture, there's so shame about having a soft penis as a lingam owner, as a man. And this expectation, like Karen was saying, that you're just supposed to be hard. If you're aroused, you're supposed to be hard. And if you're not hard, then what's wrong with you? You must be broken. But embracing the soft cock, like, I just think that must be so medicinal and so healing for all of us.
Well, and I think a lot of yoni owners don't even know that soft cocks can receive a lot of erotic pleasure. That just because that cock is soft doesn't mean that things are not feeling really good and juicy. Yeah. And that some men can actually even orgasm without an erection.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that was new to me. And I was like, what? I thought without the erection, you just weren't having any fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And certainly having engorged erectile tissue can increase in heightened sensitivity. But for some people, that's not necessarily required. And yeah, I just love this whole like reframe that just like soft cock love. Hashtag soft cock love. Lucia, what are your thoughts? Is this something that you run into in your practice? Because you do hands.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say, that I definitely agree with what Karen and Rosie were saying. And I come across this a lot of times because I do work with those who are, if it's a new client, it's, they're brand new. And so I don't know what the circumstances are. If they have any concerns or issues, sometimes they will come out forward and say so. Sometimes they don't. And it's not even really necessarily an issue. But what I do see happen is a lot of times, which is why the breathing is so important, is when they're going through that process of reaching orgasm, they are breathing very, very at a high, hard pace, right? And so the breathing is really encouraged to get them to relax more, right? And then also what I do is I'll massage around the in between the perineum and around the inner thighs and right below the scrotum, just because there's it also helps with relaxing with your vagus nerve along with the breathing, because those nerves are heating in those areas. And so a lot of times it's just stuck energy that needs to get moved. It's same thing in the performance anxiety. And again, with the heart rate, beating, with the breath excuse me, with the breath work, is getting them to relax a bit more here. And so I've definitely just show compassion, right? Be kind. Sometimes there are those that they take it really hard. And so sometimes they'll use their words and they'll say, I'm sorry, don't know why I'm not functioning properly today, and so I'll just let them know, hey, it's okay. We're just going to take it a little bit slower. I'm going to have you do some deep breathing. And then there's different techniques or motions that you can massage and use. And it's not like this rush, hurry process, right? And so it's a little bit, you're taking your time, right? And so I do specialize particularly in those kinds of, and it's on my website, that it's that ending part which is considered a linga massage is going to take some time. So it's not something that's, if it's going to be just a quick couple minutes, then, you're not going to, it's not enough time to be even, become erect for some. Others, it is. But that's kind of, the approach that I take. And I also then refer them, to, if they want to, if they have concerns they would like to work on, then I refer them, to the coaching services. And so I get, a variety of those that are coming in brand new and just kind of being curious. And then something like this comes up. And then again, you explain this idea of, a soft penis. And, and I don't think that, I really think that it comes down to just not knowing that you could actually, there's just sometimes that there's softer skin, and especially with those who like are maybe above the age of 50, 55-ish, as what I've seen is the ones that are above that age. As we age, what I've seen is a lot more, sometimes there could be more excess skin, right? So we wrinkle over time, right? Our skin is naturally in our body is going to wrinkle over time. And so sometimes there is a little bit more excess skin. So it's softer and you still become erect. You can still become erect and you may not feel it as hard as you might somebody who is, maybe in their 20s. Yeah.
So the strength of the erection.
So the strength and also the tissue that you're feeling, for especially also for those who are some circumcised versus uncircumcised, there's going to be additional skin on some, and some of them don't have it. And so the feeling of it, you will feel that some are quite squishier, right, than others. And that's perfectly normal. If somebody is coming to me and they're saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's going on today. And I'll say, oh, no, don't, it's okay. This is quite normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And other times there's people that come in and they don't say anything, but you can tell that they are worried, right? And so again, taking them back to the breath work, and having them doing the deep breathing, and then doing massage around the pelvic areas to kind of get them to relax into it.
And I love that you gave I love the methods that you gave to help support that process. And I just want to carve out here why the breath is so important, because it was a revelation for me to when I learned that the parasympathetic nervous system governs erection. It governs the erectile response. The parasympathetic nervous system is about resting, is when we feel safe, right? When we feel safe and rested. And so it makes so much sense when we're in the performance anxiety, erectile fluctuations make so much sense, because if I'm anxious, I'm not in my parasympathetic response. I don't feel safe. I feel anxious. I feel afraid. I'm in that fight or flight response. And so my nervous system actually is not able to support the erection because it's getting ready to flee or throw down, fight somebody, right? And so this also makes a lot of sense when it comes to just like, it may not even be performance anxiety, but for a man, if he's just had a really stressful day, right? And he's in his head thinking about stuff and chewing on the day, he's not going to be able to get, his erection may fluctuate, or he may not be able to get an erection because he's stressed. So stress is a boner killer, really important for us to be aware of. And so that's why the breath practices that you all are describing are so important, because our breath regulates our autonomic nervous system. And if we are in a fight or flight response, we can use our breath to soothe and calm the nervous system and come back to that relaxed balance that is required for not just erection, but for full sexual activity. So I just wanted to dig down into that. Any thoughts that you want to add, Sequita, in terms of what to do in the moment if our partner is fluctuating with an erection and can't stabilize it?
I wholeheartedly agree with Rosie and Lucy and Karen. I would add to praise their lingam. Because men are not off, I call it lingam worship. You know, a lot of times the lingam is supposed to be functional and not adored. And, you know, the yoni is always adored and it's so beautiful, but the lingam doesn't get that kind of attention. And so when I give them that kind of attention, they totally relax and they feel safe. And emotions come up because they've never had that kind of attention given to their lingam. Yeah. So I would offer that.
I love that piece. The words of appreciation, using words as medicine. That's tantric speech. So using our tantric speech to bring praise and adoration and worship. And it's particularly when the lingam is soft, right? Giving praise and worship to the lingam when it's soft, because you're so right. It's like, there's a demand. The only purpose of the cock is to pound pussy. That is, you know, the purpose of the cock, at least in porn culture. So to be able to just offer, to honor the lingam in all of its iterations and adore the lingam when it isn't performing. I love that piece.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add too, in my own personal experience too, when it comes to just relationships in general and intercourse is, you know, when I have encountered that happening before is that I just go and I give attention to other parts of the body, right? Yes. So oral, right? Oral kissing all over the body, you know, giving, you know, oral sex and that usually, you know, really works, and just spending the time there, like how Sequita is saying, you know, worshiping the cock, right? And I was just going to add for going back to the sex workers is a lot of times there's a huge difference of being present in the moment. And when you come in, sometimes a lot of the clients, they want to talk about how their day went. They want to, you know, and they're talking throughout the whole entire session. And then you get to this part, and I've seen that happen where they're not able to really connect there because they weren't really feeling into the moment. And so one of the things that I do is we talk for the first few minutes of the session, and then I encourage them to kind of just rest, relax, breathe, and be present in the moment, because this is about experiencing, exploring pleasure and hitting the different areas of the body that are going to be, you know, awoken. And in order to do that, you know, that you need to be present in the moment. So I just wanted to add that. It's very
beautiful.
important.
Thank you for that piece. Thank you for that piece. It's all, you know, and it all ultimately boils down to nervous system regulation. That's like the key to life.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what everyone else has said. Like, I love the conversation because it's focusing on a man, focusing on a lingam owner as a whole person.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to like, as women, we think about being objectified, and there's a lot of conversation around that, but it's really objectification of men, of lingam owners, when the sole focus around their sexuality and sexual performance and even just their personhood is around their penis, like one organ, and the organ in one state, you know, in an erect state. So, you know, I love what the other panelists have said, you know, that really like, this is a person, a whole person, and we're focusing on them as real people and not just like a sum of their parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And then just one more thing that occurred to me, Lucy, is I just want to celebrate the fact that you said oral, and then you brought our attention to kissing the whole body. As part of oral, I love that. Again, that reframe, that oral isn't just, oh, I'm going to put a penis in my mouth. Oral is kissing the whole body. Oral sex is my lips kissing every inch of you. I love that. So thank you for that reframe, Lucia. All right. Question 2 is from came through Lucia. I have a strong interest in wanting to learn more about Tantra, but my schedule is so very busy. How can I benefit from learning more if I don't have a lot of time? Well, that all depends on the style of Tantra you want to practice, my friend. So what are your thoughts on this when someone says, and this is common, because there's misconceptions about what Tantra is and isn't. But that is a thing that people say, oh, well, Tantra, I'd love to do, but I don't have time. It takes too much time. So what are your thoughts on that, you guys?
I would say yes. If you want to dive deeply into authentic lineage-based Tantra, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some commitment, like anything else you're going to do in your life, like working out or any other self-care or any other learning. So yes, absolutely. But there are many gentle paths. Like I started to learn about different types of Tantra when my kids were little, right? My life was very busy, very full. I didn't have a partner who was interested in it. So you have a book by your bed that you read a little bit every night. These days, there is so much good, Devi was saying there's 220 episodes of Sex is Medicine that you could start listening to, driving in your car, put on a podcast, make a choice, probably narrow it down to what do you want to learn in Tantra specifically? And then you can get books, you can get podcasts, you can follow people, you can ask questions. You can definitely do the drip feed of Tantra.
Yay. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you. So exploring some intellectual study of Tantra before even needing to engage in the yoga of Tantra.
Yeah.
Anyone else? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. As Rosie was saying, just and it doesn't have to be just intellectual, because it's really weaving it into your current life. So that's what the yoga is. It's like, if we're doing yoga, it has to be, we're doing yoga in the context of our life, like not something that we just go somewhere and try to find some time for. And the concept of time is really what you're prioritizing, because time, there's 24 hours in our day. And so a lot of it's how are we prioritizing it? So if we're prioritizing it around our well-being so that we can give to our children, give to our spouses, give to our job, we have to be whole and healthy. And if we're understanding Tantra, and authentic Tantra is a healing modality, it is somatic. So it's not just about, having 3 hours of sex, that's, can be part of it. But the focus is really on moving those blocks so that we really can be full, whole, integrated people. So, I'm looking at it more from a perspective of what's important to you? Are you important to you? And if you're important to you, then the time opens up for you. It's just like going to the gym or anything else you want to do to support your well-being.
Thank you so much for that, Karen. I'm going to jump in here because that falls into when I was first starting my training back in Kauai, and I was in the Dharma class with Lama Tashi, and one of the students asked, where do we fit Tantra? We're busy, our lives are busy, I feel overwhelmed. How are we supposed to work and do Tantra and do all the other stuff? And what Lama Tashi said is Tantra fits into your leisure time. So if we think of work, that's 8 hours a day, maybe, depending on, granted, if you got 3 jobs, it's going to consume a lot more. But the general kind of middle-class American rule of thumb is you go to work 9 to 5, right? So that leaves quite a bit of time in your life for leisure. And so exactly what you're saying, Karen, is what is taking a cold, hard look at what is it that we're prioritizing. But also when it comes to Tantra, there's sexual Tantra and there's non-sexual Tantra. And when you're learning lineage-based Tantra, it's going to be presented in a way that's holistic. So there's going to be Tantra practices, non-sexual Tantra practices that you can do in your fucking car. Like seriously, I have so many students that do work 9 to 5s, and they, at their lunch break, they go out to their car and they meditate. They get their Tantra, they get their non-sexual Tantra practice in, or they go to a quiet room and they journal and they do NVC, or they do some ocean breath to relax. So when you're practicing authentic lineage-based Tantra, there are so many methods, so many Tantra yoga practices that should be woven into your everyday activities, because Tantra is about how we have a better life, how we cope with stress, how we regulate our nervous systems in the face of, like, you know, the world that we live in. And truly at the heart of authentic Tantra, it's enlightenment. And enlightenment, before enlightenment, we chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, we chop wood, carry water. So the activity doesn't change. It's just the consciousness and the awareness with which we engage in the activity transforms incredibly. So in terms of, for you out there listening and thinking that Tantra takes a lot of time, when you're first training in Tantra, it will feel like that, or it can feel like that. But this is also the importance of having a coach, because we do this. We live this, we breathe this. There's not a moment of a day that goes by that I'm not practicing Tantra. There is literally not a moment. Every breath I take is part of my Tantra yoga practice. But that was a process to arrive at that space. And so having a guide and a coach who can walk you through that process and support you as an individual in plugging in your Tantra yoga practice so that it becomes a rhythm, it becomes a practice. And just like Karen said, it's like going to the gym or going to the doctor or going to the dentist. It's something that we have to choose to prioritize for our well-being. And I think that's one of the greatest tragedies of the way that Tantra has maybe been presented in the Western culture is this, you know, extra luxury, when actually it's a wellness practice. It is a holistic wellness practice. It is the birthright of every human being on this planet. You have a right to know how to heal, balance, and enrich your energy body every single day. That is your birthright. So Tantra is not a luxury. It is literally a wellness practice.
And once you go through those practices, like I had 2 kids and one of my child's best friends living in the house, actually, while I was doing the training. And I would just say, like, you do have to change your communication. I would say to them, guys, I got to go masturbate. That's part of my tantric training. So everybody know, put some earplugs in, because this is what I'm doing for the next hour. Mm-hmm. Right. And I have done non-sexual Tantra with my whole family and most of my friends.
Yeah.
Right. My stepfather, who's very sick, I've sat and we've done non-sexual tantric practices. My kids, for sure, we've done a lot of, and they utilize a lot of non-sexual Tantra in their lives. And many of my friends, and certainly all my students, every day I teach, whether they're coming to me for Tantra or not, we do non-sexual tantric practices. So once you actually have it, like going to the gym, the beginning, you know, as you're building that muscle, you got to be in there. It's going to be harder work. And then once you get to that place where you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing, I've built the muscle, then the maintenance really comes into your life. You learn how to blend it in your life. And it's beautiful. Like as a mom with kids, and maybe Lucia can talk about this as well. You know, what a beautiful gift for my children to have and to know and to be able to talk openly about sexuality, and also to see this as non-sexual and sexual, like the blending of both together in a non-dualistic type of practice.
Yeah, very important. I love the element of practicing with your family. We had just at our embodiment retreat last September, one of our students who will be graduating soon, she's a grandma, and she was telling us how her little grandbabies are running the elements from listening to their grandmama practice. And now one of the grandchildren, the youngest one, is teaching the other grandchildren how to do it correctly from listening to their grandmama. So I'm like, this is how lineages are passed. You know, I mean, that's just, it's amazing. And children, it's like they mimic and take their modeling after what we, the adults, are doing in the environment. So if we're practicing medicine, it's setting them up in a really positive and auspicious way. Did you want to add something, Sequita, to having time to practice?
Yeah, just I remember when I first started my training, I thought, oh my God, 3 hours a week seemed like a lot of time. And I was just berating myself. I can't get it all in. And now it's like, I cannot not get it all in.
Yeah.
You know, it's become so embodied that's why I was, you know, late this morning, is I had to do my prostrations. It was like, you know, I could not do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. So go on, Lucia.
Oh, I was just going to say and add that, yeah, for me, it was something that I also struggled with in the beginning because, I have a large family. I have 6, kids, 4 of which live with me at home. And my schedule is definitely very busy all the time and it's nonstop. And I guess I had a mindset going into it with that I had to have a set schedule and have a certain time every single day, to set aside time for this. And it wasn't working, and because like a doctor's appointment or you go to the gym, right? It's so easy for you to make that appointment, right? And so with Tantra, it's a different, it's a completely different lifestyle where I learned how to go with the flow and it didn't have to be a certain day or a certain time. And so now, what I do is I don't have a set time that I do meditation. It's when I feel good to do it, for one, when I want to, and whenever then I have some free time. And there is some free time in my day, regardless of how busy and crazy it ends up getting, I can squeeze it in. And if for whatever reason it's not going to happen that day, it's okay. I move on to the next day, but I'm not beating myself up anymore about it, and so it's just it's more relaxed, right? And now that I am a bit more relaxed about it, I actually can see now where there's actually time, where before, there's this concept of time and people are always so busy. But when you actually, if you take a journal at the end of the day and you actually write down and jot down, what did you do throughout the entire day? You're going to actually find that there were moments that you did have time, but you're not seeing it because your mind is, constantly going, and so, the ocean breathing is what really helped me to bring my calmness and relax in general. No matter what arises, I would say the number one tool that I use and that I use in the home is the ocean breathing. If my kids know, to encourage me to do the ocean breathing, if I'm mad or angry about something, oh mom, would you, you better go do some ocean breathing.
They're like, Mom, go regulate your nervous system. You're in fight or flight. Your amygdala's triggered right now.
And it's funny too, because sometimes I'll be doing it and my little 7-year-old, he thinks it's cool. He'll come out and he'll join me, and he'll just start making the sounds. And it's just it's so cool. You have to experience it. Wow. Yeah. And so, and the other thing, that I tell or encourage others to ask themselves when they are interested in some kind of a tantric path, is to really set your intention and really look at yourself. Like Karen was mentioning, is what is your intention and what would change in your life if you made yourself a priority? Right. And so ask yourself that, and, then based off of that, then you're going to want to make the adjustments, in your life.
I love that. And that, that is so huge, because it's like, ultimately the goal of Tantra is to alleviate suffering. So, if you do practice, like the reason to do the practice is to free yourself from suffering. So to be happier, there's all kinds of shit that I do during a day, or that I will say mainstream America does in a day, that isn't to cultivate happiness. And in fact, cultivates the opposite of happiness. So can you take 10, 15, 20 minutes out of your day specifically to cultivate happiness and joy? And that's kind of the thing. And I know for me, with Tantra, Tantra can be broken down to 10 breaths. We're not talking about, oh, you gotta, masturbate for an hour starting out. No, that's not where you start. Where you start is, can I sit and follow 10 breaths? Can I sit and follow 21 breaths? Can I visualize and breathe at the same time? So we start small and we build from there. So what you're able to do after 3 months of practice is very different than your first 3 weeks of practice. That's the thing. And I love what you described, Lucia, about liberating yourself from the rigidity of like, okay, 6 o'clock every day, I need to do. That works for some people. And I know for me, because I was a dancer, that's the way I trained. It's like, okay, you do the 20 bar exercises and and you 5 o'clock every day. And so that worked at first. But after a period of time, when the yoga actually integrated in my consciousness, now for me, that kind of rigidity doesn't work. Now for me, I personally need more fluidity. But part of that is because I'm wired to want to practice. And so we also have to be mindful when you're starting a new practice, it takes a while to wire that into your brain, like literally new neural pathways, and to wire it into your nervous system. So initially there may be more of a sense of effort to get the practice in, but once it's wired, then it becomes habit. That's the thing. We want to get to the point where our Tantra yoga practice is habit. And we can just be walking around the house or, going through our day and be like, I really want to self-connect. I think I'm going to sit down and do some space element meditation to connect with myself. Or, wow, I'm having coffee and I'm really enjoying the view. I'm going to do my pleasure journal. Or, wow, I've got some time before bed. I want to do a little OAP practice and stimulate some sexual pleasure in my life. So it becomes second nature after a period of time. And initially, it's going to take a little bit of discipline. But again, we're doing things that are increasing beneficial hormones in the body, anti-aging. It's good for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and your sexual health. It's good for us. And you can generate that in 20 motherfucking minutes a day. Like, seriously. You can do it. I have faith in you.
What occurs to me, like Lucia was saying, if you look across your day, you're doing something with your day. And the thing is, like, so what we are often doing is using tools that really aren't creating what we want to create. So like somebody did something or said something, and so you're angry about it and you're ruminating about it. And so you spent like 20, 30 minutes thinking about it, maybe talking to someone, so-and-so did such and such, when you could use the same amount of time and do a water element meditation, to help move that anger and to bring you into a space where you can see clearly, see the whole situation clearly, your role in it, what the answer is in that same 20 minutes, and then I think about, things like when people are anxious about something, are they taking a half an hour and watching TV just so they can relax? Or eating something just so they can relax, when they could use the same time or less time and do some ocean breath or, do some breath work to help to support their nervous system. So it's really everyone's using the time, but they're using it in a way that is actually perpetuating their suffering as opposed to relieving it.
Exactly. And that's because that's what this culture supports and offers. So Tantra is giving you literally a new paradigm, is giving us all tools to heal and to actually come to authentic rest, as opposed to disassociating like our culture, encourages us to do. So yeah. So Tantra does not have to take a lot of time, is the point. And again, small bites. Right? You're not going to eat the whole pie in one sitting or you're going to get sick. So, but if you eat a little bite one day and eat another bite the next day, you get that deliciousness in your mouth without the negative side effects.
Yeah, I just wanted to also just add, for me, with the non-sexual practices, I am a lot more fluid about that, and I just fit it in whenever, right? But with the sexual tantric practices, I do schedule those because my schedules can sometimes be crazy. I want to make sure that I am, setting aside some time for myself. Then I do make time to put that into my schedule, like an appointment. I'm going to set up a date for myself so that I can give myself the attention that I need and that I want and that I desire.
Beautiful. Nice. I love how you differentiated that. Thank you, Lucia. Yeah, because that is something that, particularly sexuality, particularly because of our cultural conditioning, it is something that can often be brushed to the side. And, oh, I'll do it when I feel like it. And then you never feel like it, right? So having that plugged in, the sexual yoga plugged in for consistency can be very, very supportive for people. And that's what we often recommend for couples particularly. Yeah. Yay. All right. So last question, it looks like, because we've had such a juicy and enriching conversation, we're getting close to the end of our time here. So the next question is, how can I stop wet dreams? So there's a lot that comes up for me with this, a lot of questions to be answered before I answer that question. So what are your guys' thoughts if someone came to you and said, how can I stop wet dreams? Where's your mind going to go first?
Why would you want to?
Good question, Sagit. Well, let's just say this person, exactly. That's a great first question, because often the reason that we would want to, or someone would want to stop wet dreams, is shame, embarrassment, thinking that there's something wrong, sexual suppression, like, ooh, I shouldn't be having this. It's dirty. It's gross. It's bad. I don't want my mom to know, or I don't want my partner to know. So I get, the first that I get is embarrassment and shame is why people would want to, is they think that there's something wrong, or that it's dirty, or they want to hide it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It would be sort of, why are you wanting to stop this? Is there another issue? Is there another underlying issue? Right. So aside from, like, is there something physically, like maybe you have a wet dream and then maybe you can't perform that day with your partner.
Yeah.
Right. Is there other factors to making you want to stop the wet dream? And yeah, what emotionally do you connect that having wet dreams with? Does that mean lack of control? Right? What is it connected with?
Yeah. What does it mean to you? And I know that, so looking a little bit online, like the believed cause of wet dreams is an increase in hormones, testosterone, usually connected or linked to the increase in hormones that we go through in puberty. So it's very common for teenage boys and in some cases girls to have wet dreams as part of the sexual maturation. And at the same time, I know that wet dreams have been a concern for some of our male clients who practice semen retention. So particularly when you're trying to retain your semen and not have the emission, and you're working really hard to retain your semen and separate orgasm from ejaculation, it can feel like a betrayal when you wake up in the morning and your body has ejaculated without your consent.
So everybody's telling you what it needs, right? Because for men who are semen retaining, it's a fluctuation. Sometimes they need to ejaculate a little bit more, often a lot less. But when they're actually in the process of semen retaining, it's not I only will, ejaculate once a month or once every 6 months. There's an ebb and flow. And I would say your body ejaculating in the night your body is making a definitive answer as to, this is what I need right now.
True. Yeah. Particularly if it is linked to an increase in testosterone, that's a really clear indication that your semen retention practice is working. That being said, this is addressed in Tibetan medicine as a potential, if the wet dreams are, I guess, excessive, which is kind of vague, like what's excessive to me is not necessarily excessive to you, but maybe to the Tibetan doctor, it would be considered excessive. If it is excessive, it can be an indication of a weakness in the downward voiding winds. And so one of the ways to antidote that would be to do pelvic floor exercises, power wind exercises, and practices to help strengthen the downward voiding winds so that your winds are not going loose, shall we say, in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, kind of thing. So, for me, when I hear, how can I stop wet dreams? The first thing that comes up for me after why, because that right there, why do you want to stop them, is a huge, huge piece. But the next question for me is, well, how old are you? Are you 15? Because that's a whole different conversation than if you're 55, right there. So how old are you? Why do you want to stop them? How old are you? And then also, how long has this been happening? Is this like, every single day? How often does it happen? And then how often has it been happening? Is it every single day for your entire life? Or, has something shifted? Are you in a new relationship, or did you just go through a divorce, or like what's happening in your universe that may have triggered this? And again, is it happening every night? Is it happening once a month? So what is the frequency of it happening? So there's a lot more questions to ask to diagnose like what the root cause is. What your current sexual activity? Are you practicing semen retention in your body? You haven't ejaculated in 6 months. And your body's like, fuck this, dudes. If you want to help me out, I'm going to do this myself, right? So is that what's going on? Or are you ejaculating every day and masturbating to porn and then still having emissions at night, right? And so we need a lot more information from you to answer this question, to know if it's even a problem, because as Sequita said, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's just our cultural conditioning that tells us that there's something wrong with it. And actually the medicine for you is to embrace it and celebrate it, as opposed to trying to get rid of it.
Yes.
I'd also want to know what actually is happening. So how are you defining a wet dream? So is this something that happens like after you've, been with a partner and you're fantasizing about the partner or dreaming about them and you're waking up, with a wet spot, or like, you don't even know what you're dreaming about, but are waking up that way, or you're dreaming about something specific that, you don't think that it should be connected with something sexual. Like, I want to know, like, what do you define as a wet dream to begin with? Yes. So like, what exactly are you experiencing?
Yeah, I love that. And one thing I love about these conversations is really modeling for all of you wonderful listeners how complex these sexuality issues are. It's not like Cosmo, like one size fits all and one answer fits all, because we're so unique, and because sexuality is an expression of our health and well-being. And if there's an issue in our sex, it could point to a deeper issue with our health and well-being on a number of different levels. So there is no easy answer. And I think, I really want to encourage you listeners, like, you can get fun tips and stuff from magazines and whatever, but those are they're not medicine, and they're not necessarily going to address with any depth or sustainability the issues that you may be dealing with. And this is why, again, I'm not, this isn't meant to be an infomercial, but it just keeps coming home to me how really important it is to have guidance and support in this area, just like physical, if you're physical therapy, you're not just going to go to a YouTube video on the internet to figure out how to rehabilitate yourself after surgery kind of thing. Right. So similarly with sexuality, there's a dearth of supportive, integrative, mindful education about it in the world. And so having people who specialize this to walk you through and just, give you like fucking peace of mind, dude. Like seriously, so much of what we think is fucked up about us, individually in the society about our sexuality is actually really common, and it can actually be, when we drill down into it, can actually be a simple fix. So for example, along those lines, I've had yoni owners, female students that really wanted to have vaginal orgasms. And through our conversation and just kind of like getting some feedback from them about their sexual experience and what they're doing with their breath during penetration and the position they're in, all that, all we did was just shift a few things. Open your mouth, relax and breathe. When you feel your pleasure, instead of clamping down, relax, open your body, breathe, maybe change your position to this. And like in one session, they're having fucking vaginal orgasms that they couldn't have their entire life. So sometimes it's a really simple fix. But if she didn't work with me and I didn't have the expertise that I have, she would have never gotten that from like a YouTube video or a fucking Cosmo article, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about the Cosmo article, it's this concept of one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so that then I'll work, try that and that'll work for me. I mean, you don't go into a shoe store and you see the display shoe and you're like, oh, okay, I'll take that one, because it's probably not going to fit. It's not your size. So you look for your size shoe, like one size does not fit all, so it's like, I love that, Devi, just the idea that it's like, yeah, this is very individualized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to take up time to talk about, because this is our last show for the year, is I want to talk about Gspot vibrators, my friends. because this was not on the schedule, but it's coming up now because it's one of those things that pisses me right the fuck off. So your G-spot is erectile tissue that needs to engorge. It is your urethral sponge. It's spongy tissue that surrounds your urethra. It's part of your erectile tissue bed, internal erectile tissue. It takes time to engorge. You're not going to put your finger on the front wall of your vagina after walking out of the shower, unless you've been, fantasizing and masturbating in there and like have an orgasm because you just touched your G-spot. That's not the way it works. It's like a penis. It needs to be engorged. And it responds to pressure, pressurized friction. So not vibrating. Your G-spot does not respond to vibrating until it's already engorged. So I'm saying this because I cannot tell you how many women with vulvas and vaginas, being specific for our non-binary people and trans people here, women with vulvas and vaginas, I cannot tell you how many times they have thought that their pussies were broken because they bought the best new G-spot vibrator and it didn't fucking work for them. They didn't have a G-spot orgasm. And it's because they weren't warmed up. It's because simply did not know how the body works. Your G-spot has to be engorged. For most people, I will say your G-spot needs to already be engorged for it to respond to vibration. And it does not engorge through vibration alone. It needs pressure and combine pressure and friction in order to engorge. And so G-spot vibrators, in my opinion, are a waste of your motherfucking money. They are. And until they're great to use as dildos once you're already engorged, but just trying to use a G-spot vibrator and thinking you're going to have the best G-spot orgasm of your life. I have yet to have one, and I've been trying for 13 motherfucking years. And I have yet to have a client who uses a G-spot vibe successfully without education beforehand. So do you guys have anything you want to add to that? I just wanted to say that because it fucking pisses me off so bad. Because we're spending $200.
I don't own a G-spot vibrator. Yeah, I don't own a G-spot vibrator. I
don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a partner or whomever who's going to make you squirt by, vibrating with their finger your G-spot when it's not engorged and nothing else has gone on before. And it's like, oh, well, then you must be broken.
Yes.
Like I hear that from women who've experienced that, and it's at the hands of whether they're practitioners or partners or whoever they are, who, just dive into the G-spot and, and then it's like, oh, well, what's your issue?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so important to let people know that, number one, yes, sex is sold to us all the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of what is being sold to us is not healthy and actually not researched even well for yonis.
Yeah.
Right? It's not even looking at how actually our physiology works. And every fucking woman is different. Every person with a yoni. So I'm going to go back to a general. So anybody with a yoni, your yoni is 100% different. And that's being a pansexual person. Not to say that every lingam owner isn't also different, but the particular physiology of yoni can be quite different from one yoni to another.
Yeah.
Right? As a pansexual person, when I have a female lover, I'm a lot more like, oh shit. Even when I give a yoni massage, I'm a lot more like, oh shit. I got a lot of figuring out to do here. I have a lot of communication to do to find out, because one person may love their G-spot being stimulated, may get off on it. Another person is like, don't touch me there. That's annoying. I hate it.
Yeah.
Right? It is. Yeah. And this is part of the beauty though, too, is the time of communication and exploration and creating one thing, like a vibrator for the G-spot makes no sense because our bodies are not created like that.
And also, and I love that you brought that in, Rosie, because also our sexuality is not static. And so, initially there were parts of my yoni that I absolutely hated having stimulated that now I love, or vice versa, because something shifted in inside of me, inside of my brain and my heart and my, my energy body, my physiology, something shifted. So our sexuality is not static. And what worked for me 10 years ago is not the same thing that's going to work for me today. So what worked for Jill, in her G-spot massage for, Bob to give her is not going to necessarily work for Jennifer.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, even from week to week, our cycles, depending on where you are in your cycle, something can be like so sensitive. It's like, whoa, okay, no. And then at different times in the cycle, it's like, yeah, go there, so, it's not even just 10 years. It's like 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So Gspot vibrators, ladies, if I would say don't spend $200 on one. It's not going to give you the best orgasm of your life. It will sit in your drawer most likely. If you want to try them, start with like a $30 version first, and don't feel like you're broken if you don't have an orgasm from vibrating on your Gspot when it hasn't been engorged for 20, 30, 40 minutes already.
Yeah.
So
my honey wand is my Gspot's best friend.
Yeah. The honey dipper wand. Yes.
Yeah.
Because ergonomic. I call it the Gspot crowbar. Get you one today, ladies, at authentictantra.com. Gspot crowbar. All right, my friends, we are actually over our time today, but that is okay. We so enjoyed spending this time with you. Everyone, I'm going to have you do a round of who you are and where we can find out more. Let's start with Lucia in the upper right. Who are you and where can we find out more?
Oh, yeah, you can simply Google my name, Lucia Vasquez, and all my social medias will pop up, or you can use my website, which is embodiedelements-wp.com.
Yay. All right. Rosie Bits.
You can find me at rosiebits.com. And yeah, if you Google me, everything will pop out. Lots of many things, plus lots of juicy naked pictures. So Google me.
Well, I mean, shit, with that invitation, let's do it. Karen Craig, who are you? Where can we find out more?
ExploreTantra.com. I'm also a Tantra Mastery and Certification Instructor for the Institute of Authentic Tantra Education. So you can find me on the AuthenticTantra.com website as well.
Woohoo! All right, and Sequita, you have a similar bio.
You can find me at simplytantra.com. Also, I am a Tantra Mastery Instructor at Authentic Tantra Institute at authentictantra.com.
Yay. All right, everybody. So as we said before, make sure that you stay tuned. Also, I just want to give a shout out. We are launching a Tantra Healing for Black Men program. I apologize for not putting that out front when we first started the show. It starts November 2nd. So if you still have time to jump in, please do. Even if it's a little bit late, you're listening to this episode a week later, that's okay. We will still open the doors wide for you. All the sessions will be recorded and uploaded to your online vault, and you will have access to all of that material for a year. So Tantra Healing for Black Men, sign up at tantrahealingforblackmen.com, quite frankly, and stay connected to us at authentictantra.com all the time. Look forward to seeing you all in 2022. Make sure you give us a shout out in the meantime at Authentic Tantra, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Have a beautiful night, my friends. I won't be seeing you next week. I'll be seeing you next year. Have a good night.